So in a moment, I'll be handing over to Melanie, and she'll be introducing our guest speakers for this evening. But we've been really excited by the amount of interest there's been in this network. So please do share the word. If you have a good time tonight, let people know about it. If you don't have a good time tonight, let us know about it and let us know how we can do better next time, because we're very much at the start of trying to draw people together and build a networking space for all of us interested in intergenerational ministry. Okay, well, without further ado, I'll hand over to my colleague and friend, Melanie.
Thanks, Sam. So what you can expect, we're going to hear from Sam Hargreaves first, and then we're going to have a little pause to process, and then we're going to hear from Stephen Fischbacher. So I'm going to introduce Sam to you, and then we'll hand over to Sam. So Sam leads Engage Worship with his wife, Sarah. Together, they're very passionate about gathering the generations, whether that's in their local Anglican church in Luton, or in the Spring Harvest all-age venue, or if it's in their local park where they run monthly outdoor worship. Sam writes songs and intergenerational worship resources. You should definitely check out their website. It's called engageworship.org. And their recent resource, Whole Church Worship, has 8 service plans for intergenerational worship. So without further ado, Sam, I'm handing over to you.
Thank you, Melanie. Thanks, everybody, for having me. It's lovely to be here. What a lovely welcome. I'm going to start, hopefully this will work, by showing my screen, and hopefully you'll be able to hear a song. Can you hear that? Great.
My knee's not like my elbow, my head's not like my hip, my tongue's not like my forehead, and I'm okay with it. The church is the body, and all the same. We're short and tall and big and small, in Jesus' name. My thumb's not like my pinky, my foot's not like my nose, my brain's not like my bladder, and that's the way it goes. The church is a body, and we're all the same. We're short and tall and big and small, young and rich and poor, and in Jesus' name.
There is a third verse to that song. If you want to find out what the third verse is, you'll have to go and watch it for yourself, because we don't have time to show the whole thing. But obviously that song is based on Paul's words in 1 Corinthians 12, where he says, just as a body, though one has many parts, but all its many parts form one body, so it is with Christ. As it is, there are many parts, but one body. And I would add that each part of the body of Christ will have different ways that they like to come to God in worship. It's very likely that in your services, whatever church you're part of, you're going to have a mix of people. You're going to have some who like modern music, some who like old hymns, some who like a particular way of doing song worship that's been important to them at some stage on their journey of faith. And actually, you'll probably also have some people who really just don't like singing at all. Now, quite often we treat this diversity in our congregations as if it's a problem. People can grumble and get into arguments over worship styles, and we can treat this like a problem, or I believe we can treat it as a gift. I want to suggest that the diversity of people you have in your church is a gift. Each person in your congregation with their particular needs, passions, musical preferences, and ways of worshipping is a gift to you from God. Paul wrote, God has put each part of the body just where he wants it. How strange a body would be if it only had one part. Now, continuing with this body metaphor from 1 Corinthians 12, Paul also says that there are some parts of the body that we need to take particular care of. And when we come to think about sung worship, particularly in an intergenerational space, I think it's important that we identify the parts of the body that might need particular care and attention for it to be genuinely intergenerational. So yeah, you can see that passage there. So that can include, and this isn't an exhaustive list, but firstly, think about those who can't read. When I had children and they were young, it sort of amazed me to realize, oh, these children can't read. And even when they got a bit older and they started going to school, actually you put something up on the screen, but I'd realized, oh, my kids, even though they can read a bit, they're not really following along quick enough with the stuff that we've put on the screen. But that's not just true of children, is it? We probably all know people in our own congregations, maybe they struggle with their eyesight, maybe English isn't their first language, maybe they just generally struggle with literacy. And so one of the questions I think we need to ask in the intergenerational space is, how can we engage them in singing in ways that don't always rely on reading from a screen, reading from a hymn book? Another example is people who are new to faith. Again, this might be young children who just haven't yet experienced all there is to know about faith. This might be teenagers that you've got in your congregation. It might be adults, adult converts to Christianity, or people who are just exploring faith, or maybe even just people who haven't been in your particular stream of church. Maybe they've been to a different kind of denomination before, and now they're coming to your church. And maybe some of the sung worship is just very new to them. How can we engage those people in sung worship in ways that make sense to them? And then also think about those who feel they've been marginalized. Again, that might be because they come from a different background. They might come from a different socio-economic background or a different country, a different culture. Or it might even be because perhaps, I'm imagining if you've come on this webinar, that maybe your church has made steps to becoming more kind of family friendly. I know that in my church, that's definitely happened over the last few years. We've become a lot more family friendly, and the church has grown in all sorts of ways because of that. But there will be some people who maybe feel they've been left behind. Maybe they feel like, hang on a minute, the church services aren't what they used to be. Maybe they're not for me anymore. So how can we include all of these people in our sung worship? Now, if it's a longer time for me, I'll get you in groups and get you to chat about this, but I'll just give you this to take away and think about and chat about in your context. And you can probably think of other categories as well to add. But once you've thought about this as a foundation, let's turn to this specific question of music and song, sung worship in intergenerational worship. And the first thing that I want to say about this is, in my mind, all age or intergenerational worship does not just need to be about kid songs. That's perhaps the sort of assumption that we'll make. Oh, it's an all age space, so therefore we're going to do all or a lot of kid songs. Now, Sarah and I love songs written especially for children. We use those sort of songs regularly. But to my mind, if we only do kid songs, then it's not really intergenerational anymore. It's more like a children's service with adults watching. And that's something that I wouldn't see as intergenerational. Similarly, an adult service with children give us some colouring to keep quiet is also not an intergenerational service. Intergenerational is when we are learning from one another, when we're growing together, when we're preferring one another in love, and we're mixing the styles and the ways of approach. So rather than just assume, oh, we just got to sing kid songs now, here's some criteria when you're picking songs for an intergenerational time. Firstly, are the words understandable? Does the text make sense to everyone? And that might include thinking about, is there jargon? Is there archaism, oldie worldy words that don't make sense to some people? Are there concepts in here that are just, a new Christian or someone from a different background is going to struggle to understand? Secondly, is it a length that people can cope with? Something I often think about a lot of modern songs is they've got more and more and more sections, haven't they? Often the live version goes on for 10 minutes and it's got an extra bridge and an extra tag and an extra... I just think that is not going to work in my intergenerational context. So maybe I cut it down, or maybe I just sing a different song. And then, is the tune easily singable? And is the music accessible to your musicians? A lot of songs are written and they sound great on YouTube. They sound great on Spotify, great at the big conference with the huge band and the professional singers. But when you take them home to your little local church and you've got your few people and your few musicians, maybe it doesn't fly quite as well. So think about, is this actually accessible for the vocal range, the people we've got, for the musicians, the musical forces that we have available to us. And I think you'll agree that when we apply those criteria, you'll see that we could include a lot of hymns, songs, modern worship songs, but just thinking about specifically, is this going to work with those criteria? So people like Steve from Fishy Music have written loads of great material. I was looking at the website today. I think Welcome Everybody might be a song that Steve's going to share later. I thought it was a fantastic song for an intergenerational context. We also use quite a lot of Nick and Becky Drake's stuff from Worship for Everyone. So the song As We Wait, again, is a great example for me of an intergenerational song. It totally works across the age ranges and the backgrounds. And recently, as Engage Worship, we put out this book, Whole Church Worship, and we put out, to accompany that, a 6-song EP that you can find on Spotify or on YouTube or through our website called Whole Church Worship, and that has 6 intentionally intergenerational songs. But alongside those resources, you might also find songs from other places that work really well for intergenerational. So one example of this is what you might call world songs, or songs not written in the UK and North America, but from other parts of the global church. Does anyone have, I forgot to pick up my copy, does anyone have the book World Praise kicking around somewhere in the back of their church or in their cupboard? Because World Praise is a fantastic book full of short, very singable, very accessible songs from all over the globe. And I found those very helpful in intergenerational settings. We're also in Luton, and so we're very fortunate to have people from lots of different cultures and backgrounds. And we love to ask people, could you tell us, if you come from a different culture, a different country, what did you sing growing up? What have you sung in your country? Could you teach us some of those songs? And ideally get that person up the front and get them teaching the whole congregation those songs. That's the most kind of integral way of doing that, I think. And that really emphasizes this thing that everyone's got a different background and they're all welcome here. They're all valid and they're all meaningful. So a little example of a world song is the one from Peru called Glory to God. I'm just going to show you a little clip of this so you get an idea. So you can see with that song, there's a couple of things I want to highlight. One is that musically, it works just with voices. We've used drums there as well to accompany it, but you can do it completely a cappella if you want. And it just works really well in those kinds of settings. But also it has that call and response format. And that answers that question I was asking earlier about what do we do when people can't perhaps all read? Well, doing call and response is a great way of involving everyone, because you just, as the leader, you sing it out, they sing it straight back. There's no learning involved. There's no reading involved. And we took that approach as well with one of the songs from the EP that I was talking about. This is called Come In. I'm just going to play you a little bit of that to show you another example of a call and response song. If you want to hear more of that, go and check it out on our website. Now, actions is another thing that helps people interact on ways that aren't just singing. It gives them another way of engaging using their bodies. I do know that actions sometimes get a bit of a mixed response in a lot of churches. And the first thing I would say about that is actions to me are not about keeping the kids happy. You probably all heard people explain, okay, now we've got some actions for the children. Well, I wouldn't ever say that. I would instead choose to say, some of us like to worship God with our bodies. And if that's you, we'd love to invite you to join us as we do these actions or these dance moves. Or also you might want to explore things like using BSL, a British Sign Language, or Makaton, or other things that will help people use their bodies to worship God. And this is just a little example of my daughter makes up a lot of the actions for our songs. And you can see in here, she used a little bit of BSL sign assisted, a little bit of dance moves, and other ways of just making these actions engaging. Again, go and check that out if you want to hear more of that. The last thing I want to say as my time runs out is just one other idea, which is I was saying that sometimes songs are a bit long, or maybe you think, well, we want to use a hymn, but we're not sure we're going to keep engagement whilst we're having this hymn. So something we talk about is parallel activities. So maybe you're singing, you're doing one thing, but maybe you're also saying, so this is an example, we handed out a sheet and we said, we're going to sing the hymn Praise to the Lord, the Almighty, the Congregation. Also, if you would like to draw, again, don't say for the kids, say if you like to draw, you might want to draw your favorite place in God's creation whilst we're singing this hymn. And then afterwards, we would say, that's my time up. Afterwards, we would say to people, right, let's go around, let's find out who's been drawing what. You might also do that on a big piece of paper that you put at the front or up on a wall or something. But hopefully you can see that that's not, again, giving the kids a bit of a colouring sheet to keep them quiet. It's saying, everybody, that likes to draw might want to engage with drawing whilst we sing this hymn. And so you're just adding another level of interaction. That's me. Thanks, guys.
Okay, thank you, Sam, for that. A lot of information to take in. We'll have to think about that for next time, but I just would point you to Engage Worship website where you can hear and see all of the songs that Sam has shared. But I just wonder if there is, just for a minute, if you just want to think about the words that sprang out of what Sam was saying just now, share them in the chat or shout them out if you want to. For me, I was really kind of floating away on inclusion and exclusion. So those were two kind of big words that came out of there for me. But just take a moment to just reflect over what Sam was saying. What landed with you? What word or what phrase or idea are you going to take away from what Sam just shared with us? So take a moment, share in the chat box or just call out, because it's helpful for everybody. And thanks, Mary, for sharing your idea about not to say this is for the kids. That's a helpful, very helpful. So I don't know if everyone's got their chat box open. I don't want to be intrusive. So if you want to open the chat box so you can see what other people are saying, this is a great way to include everybody. There's a pattern to follow. That's great. And also it's good to see the challenges coming up there as well. One of the guys in our church who leads action songs just kind of gets everyone laughing and talks about getting sweaty for Jesus, and we all kind of just fall into line after that. Okay, so keep thinking on what Sam shared with us. Definitely go onto the website and keep sharing with one another as well, because that's really, really helpful. And I'm now just going to hand back to Melanie. Thanks.
Fab. Thank you, Sam and Liz, for letting us just process a bit. If, as you've been thinking and you're mulling these ideas, if you have questions that you'd like to ask Sam specifically, do pop them in the Q&A and we can ask those to Sam later on. So now I'm going to introduce Stephen. So Stephen is a children's and youth worker based in Edinburgh, Scotland, but today he is zooming in from Iceland, where he is hiding somewhere in a youth hostel so he can be with us tonight. He founded Fishy Music in 1998 and they have just celebrated their 25th anniversary as an organisation. And Fishy Music now serves over 750 schools. That's a quarter of all the primary schools in Scotland, with songs that nurture positive mental health and helping young people express and manage a range of emotions. Stephen's songs are rooted in the Christian faith and are used in religious and moral education. Those of us in England, our schools call that collective worship. And also his songs are used quite often in church settings, particularly in intergenerational worship. So I'm going to hand over to Stephen to share with us about creating music intergenerationally for worship in church. Stephen.
Hello from Iceland. I'm just at the end of a holiday and I am in a hostel, so it's not going to be too noisy. But often I get asked, what do you do? And I start explaining, blah, 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 blah. Actually, what I do is I sing, or like we do songs in schools and in churches. So I thought probably explaining our approach is to let you hear and see some of the songs. So we're just going to do a wee whistle stop 2 or 3 of our songs, and I hope that'll give a bit of an idea of our approach to intergenerational or all-age worship. So, Susie, if you don't mind playing maybe a verse and a chorus of the song that Sam mentioned, Welcome Everybody. Thank you.
Here we are together, now we can begin. The youngest and the oldest, the only child, the twin. Some who are feeling left out, and some who are feeling it. Gathering in this place, welcome everybody, it's good to see you here. Welcome everybody, it's good to see you here. Welcome everybody, it's good to see you. Gathering in this place.
I hope you like the slow motion. That wasn't intentional, by the way. Don't quite know what happened there. Just to give it sort of flavour. Another one of our songs which works very well in as sort of a call to worship or before communion is a song called Bring It All to Me. And just very quickly to teach it to you, Sam was mentioning using sign language, and we use a lot of sign language based on British Sign Language. We work with some consultants, and we found it incredibly helpful to help people to enter, to engage at different levels, physically, bodily, spiritually, emotionally. It helps the concentration, lots of other things as well. So bring it all to me. We use this sign word, bring it all to me. And in British Sign Language, God is up to the right. So can we all try that? Bring it all to me. It goes, bring it all to me. Here we go. Bring it all to me. And then the chorus is, you can bring me anything. Try that. You can bring me, and then you can bring me everything. You can bring me everything. There we go. Just bring it all to me. Just bring it all to me. So we'll do a verse and a chorus of this one as well.
Anything excited, anything inspired, bring it all to me. Everything that's lazy, everything that's tired, bring it all to me. Anything that rages, anything that screams, bring it all to me. Everything that wonders, everything that dreams, bring it all to me. You can bring me anything. You can bring me everything. Just bring it all to me.
So one of the things I think that's quite important is we do allow both adults and children to engage their emotions. And for me, there's a teacher asked me years ago, there's not many songs around God saying, bring your stuff to me, or actually God's viewpoint on things within worship. So that was an attempt of allowing us to respond to God's call. I really liked a lot of what Sam said earlier on. I mean, it's not about kiddie songs. It's not about adult songs kind of dumbed down. It's about, if you think of a program like The Simpsons or Shrek, adults and children can watch that and get, they're quite simple in some ways, but there's different messages coming through. They're really, really well done. A lot of thought and imagination has got into them. And for me, working with children over the years, I don't really believe in a children's song, actually. I think children more than that. And I think that a really good all-age song is one that is simple, but it's got depth, and both adults and children can connect, and their messages at different levels going on. And one of the things I think about all-age worship is that there's kind of three key things for me, and I think of this every time I go into a school and every time I go into a church. I remember I was at an all-age planning service 25, 30 years ago, and we were trying to get more and more bigger and better and amazing and more flashes and bangs and pops and lights and things. And someone said, hang on a minute. Even the youngest child can understand, and the oldest adult can understand, do I belong here? Is it safe here? And can I express myself? And for me, these are very, very key things for when we are approaching, particularly music, which is one of these things, or singing, which can be quite divisive in the sense we are sharing something very deep of ourselves. And, I think the safety and the belonging and the expression or the fun are really key things to do. Not all children and adults, as Sam said, like to jump around and do stuff. Adults often fill up all the space. Let's give room for children to have their say. They do have a lot of things, good things to say, if we're brave enough to let them say it. And so let's give them space. Songs don't always have to be upbeat and positive. We do a lot of songs around issues on anger and on bullying and on disappointment and grief and loss, as well as upbeat things as well. And what we found is that people, I think that enlarges our understanding of God. If we actually realize we can bring anything to God. And again, I think a well thought out sign can really help people engage within worship. I was going to show some other videos, but probably with the technology, it might be better to leave a bit more space for questions at the end. Yeah, I would say one of the big things I've learned over the years is children do love peace and they love quiet. And a lot of things I've been to with children involved often involve a lot of noise. But we've done a lot of things over the years. Every time we go into a school, we'll always have a 3 or 4 minute section in the middle where children have an opportunity to just reflect, be quiet, and children do actually love that. I'd love to play I hope it works, called Music Maker. It's a lyric video. Maybe just play a minute of it, minute and a half of it, Susie, if you could, just to give you an idea of a song.
Let the birds sing. Let the wind sing. Let the bees sing. Let all the skies and everything in them sing to the music maker. Sing to the one creator. Sing to the music maker. Sing to the one creator. Let the waves sing. Let the whale sing. Let the seals sing. Let all the seas and everything in them sing to the music maker. Sing to the one creator. Sing to the music maker. Sing to the one creator.
I remember when I wrote that song a few years ago, children, when I let them hear for the first time, they tweeted, and they did whale noises, and they did tree noises and animal noises, and I thought, no, you can't do that, because that makes it funny, but actually that kind of contributed towards the effectiveness of it. I think it's great to offer children and all ages something that's a bit more reflective. And you can see it's a very simple song there. I love what Sam said about world songs, old songs, new songs. There's a rich diet of stuff out there. Let's use it all. Let's use the songs from hundreds of years ago. Let's, we take an old hymn like Come Christians Join to Sing, Hallelujah, Amen. And we did a kind of a Cayley version of it. And that goes down really, really well. Welcome Everybody was an old spiritual song. We use lots of old tunes. We put new words to them. Use the familiar, use the predictable, but use the new, use the old, use from Africa, use from India where you can. There's a lot of good stuff out there. Let's have a good diet of stuff. So that's enough from me.
Thanks, Steve, that was really, really helpful. I love the diet analogy. And also it's about connecting everybody to God, isn't it? That's what worship is about. It's like just that God connection for each of us. And so I'll hand over to Melanie, who'll tell us what's happening next. But thanks for sharing, Steve and Sam. We really enjoyed it.
Yes. So we're going to move into the next section, which is some breakout rooms. So part of this Intergenerate UK network is that we want to connect you with each other. And part of that will be you hearing from each other, connecting with each other, hearing each other's stories and questions. And the wisdom is in the room. It's not just in some of these people who are on the panel, but you will have a lot to say to each other. Susie is going to allocate magic rooms and you'll be invited to go into them. If you don't want to go into them, that's okay. You can stay here in the main room. The rooms are not being recorded. You can talk as much as you like. But the questions for the breakout rooms are: what stood out to you? How might this change your practice? And what steps could you take? Questions do you have or challenges are you facing? So we'll pop that into the chat. If you've got questions for our panel, do please put them in the Q&A, and then we will consolidate those and ask them to Stephen and Sam after we come back from our breakout rooms. Sam, do you want to go first?
Sure. Yeah. A couple of things we've done. We've done a lot with percussion because that's quite an easy bar. And the thing that I firstly would say about this is, please don't just hand out percussion instruments randomly and then have people complain that people make too much noise. Also, I tend to avoid things with jingles and things with sticks because they're really loud and they cut through. So often I'll go to a church, and if they've got like a box of tambourines, I'll just hide that box of tambourines somewhere where no one can find them. But I do find like little hand drums, like the kind of thing that you might get back off holiday or something if you go abroad, or little djembes, something like that, work really well. And then get children to actually teach them a beat at the start of the song. So even if that's the basic kind of "we will rock you" kind of boom boom, or something that will go with the song you're going to play, get them started on that, and then play the song with them, and then collect those instruments back in again. And if you kind of contain it like that and give it, it becomes again less of this thing of like, we're just giving you these to keep you quiet, and more of this has got a meaningful thing. I guess a slightly further thing is to actually get children involved. Say if they play an instrument at school, if they're learning an instrument, that again takes a fair amount of skill, because actually you need to know, okay, well, they're playing the recorder at grade 2 or the violin at grade 3 or whatever. How can I musically? So it may be that either yourself or someone else needs to write arrangements for them, because actually just giving them the book or just, the sheet music or they're not going to know. So you really need to think about, here's a part that is in the keys, that kind of thing.
I would say get them involved in the writing of some of the lyrics and the music. So often what we do is we'd start all playing a musical game, taking my name, Stephen. So I would just say, Stephen, Steve, Steve, come on, Stephen. And then you would play around with that. They would come up with a reaction, get their names, maybe move on to a song. So there was someone mentioned in the chat there a song that we had written called God Beside, God Behind. So when I wake up in the morning in my bed, God behind, God beside, God ahead. When I'm eating up my breakfast, my bacon and egg, God behind. So when I'm get them to come up with some ideas, when I'm going to church and I'm feeling bored, God behind, God beside, God ahead. So maybe do that, and then maybe move on to, well, let's take a well-known tune here and let's write our own feelings about what God thinks of this, or whatever. So kind of use structure. I think again what Sam said there is, I think it's giving really good templates, giving good boundaries for things, rather than just say, let's write a song. Okay, finish off a sentence, put in a word, and then you can build it up from there. But I think the more power we give away in a controlled, in a managed, boundaried way, the better. And magic happens. I often find when you do that, that's when the magic happens. And I think that's I was chatting with Pat earlier on that for me in all age worship, when it really works, it's, there's something really, really special happening there. But it does involve a wee bit of giving away some control as well, adult control.
That's really helpful. So just to sum up, I'm understanding, like, take a song that people already know the tune from or already know the words from, and then change the words or change a portion of the words so that they're not rewriting the whole song from scratch. They're just rewriting a section. Is that what you're suggesting, Stephen?
Yes. So, we've used many times in schools, like, you can't shut your granny up a bus. Okay, that's a bit daft, but you can actually write stuff around that. Take a good folk song, the Sky Boat song, or, some of these world songs as well. There's some great tunes out there. Or, we took this little light of mine, I'm going to let it shine. Do your own stuff around that, rather than, it's quite daunting to have to try and come up with a lyric and a tune and then bring it all together. So take something secure already, that's already been invented, and then build on that. We've often seen really good things happen. And then children or groups together start to write their own stuff.
Wonderful. That's really helpful. And some of those songs, young musicians might actually be able to play because they're simpler, or some of those tunes might actually be in some of their songbooks. So you might be able to get some young musicians who could play that along.
And simple is good, I would say. Good, simple. I think to get something really simple that's good requires a lot of thought and a lot of preparation. Would you agree with that, Sam?
Absolutely, yeah. And yeah, simple doesn't mean simplistic, does it?
Sam put something in the chat earlier that simple means distilled, not simplified. And often it takes years of work to simplify these things down to its core essence. But yeah, that's what people who've been doing it a while, they can do this quite quickly because they've figured out which simple things work. The next question on here is, how has your approach to whole church worship evolved over the years?
Something I've really learned from our current vicar, Grace Centimore Baverstock, is that she realised that she couldn't really rota children and young people on. She wanted to get them involved, but actually children are at the mercy of whether their parents bring them or not. So you can't say, oh, you're going to be on in 4 weeks' time, because they don't know and they can't generally make that decision for themselves. So we do a lot of our involvement on the morning, and literally 15 minutes before the service, as people are coming in, we'll be saying, and so we have quite a lot of points on our order of service that we, and so this is maybe not so much about music, but generally all age worship, intergenerational worship. We're calling on people as the service is about to start, saying, would you light the candles? Would you lead this call to worship? And so, yeah, I mean, yeah, for me, that, and within that, calling across the generations, not just involving children, because I would say probably my approach when I was younger was, this is basically a children's service where adults are watching, but really being intentional about calling across the generations, from the very oldest to the very youngest, people who are new, people who've been there, but really trying to involve as many people from across the generations as we can.
Yeah, I would echo that as well.
That's great. So just logistics wise, can you talk me through some of this? So there is that classic thing of children can only really engage with what they can see, and sometimes moving them up to the front helps them engage, but also then you get crowd control issues with all the children at the front away from their parents. Are there sort of physicality or actual sort of logistics things that you do in church that really helps when you're leading intergenerational worship?
I think it's really good if if you've got a core group who kind of knows and you have enough of them around. I mean, I hate the word crowd control, but just to know what the boundaries are again. So like, if you got a kid who's oh, isn't he lovely? Or, we can't really interfere there because it might actually, hang on a minute, move that child to the back. Just so you're all on the same page of, what the sort of boundaries are within the thing or what you're trying to achieve. It really helps to have people around you're in you're a part of that. I think that makes a big difference.
Yeah. We are lucky enough to have tables in our church, and so we encourage families to sit around tables, and we generally have a sheet for every service, which again is not a colouring sheet to keep the kids quiet. It's a sort of an all-together sheet that everyone can engage with. It's got questions and discussion and colouring and other things. And then, yeah, like Steve says, actually avoiding calling out the children, especially for long periods. You might do that for a short period, but again, I'd be like, do it for one song, send them back, because you really want to encourage this kind of pew parenting, I think. And for us, it breaks down, and this has happened recently in our services, where parents have gone, oh, we're just going to let them go off and do their own thing, and they stop kind of pew parenting them. That's when we can lose some kids, and it can kind of break down. So encouraging families to stay together, and then encouraging mixing as well. So doing things that actually will mix across the congregation. You know, do it just like a game where it's like, right, go and find someone who's got the same birth month as you, and then suddenly you're mixing with all the ages together. If there are logistical things about just being able to see, then yeah, just thinking about reordering a bit or moving things around so it is possible for people to see, and maybe create some space which is for families to sit together. But yeah, I wouldn't personally encourage kids to be on, we don't have like a children's corner or all the kids at the front. That doesn't work for us.
Oh, that's really helpful. And so I have a question here from Jonathan about involving different nationalities, different cultural forms of worship. It looks like Jonathan has not yet managed to draw out some of them to bring their songs to use together. Do you have examples other than Saya Humber that you have used?
Well, when we asked people in our church in Luton, a couple of songs that came out, there was one in the Igbo language called Chineke Idima Idima. And then there was another one which was more of a kind of gospel song called Imela. Can't remember. Somebody probably knows the writer of that. Those were a couple that came out. It's difficult. I think if you have people from another culture in your congregation, and then I, as a white person, say, let me teach you this song from Africa, I think there's a bit of a there. So I would say back to Jonathan, if you can, just keep developing that. I remember in one church we were at, people would put on music after the service and dance around. And I was like, why are we not using this in the service? Why is, it would be like a big bring and share lunch, and people from Africa would put on this amazing music and there'd be a dancing, and I'd be like, why are we not? And there was a separation and almost an expectation that, well, in the services, we use Western music. And so anything you can do to break that down. But yeah, that's my experience.
And I think as well that just in actually giving the why of why we sing these songs is because we're part of a worldwide church. And as you say, we're just this wee Western bit, but there's people all over the world who are singing in different styles and different ways, and let's join with them in that. And that thing enlarges your thinking of, why are we singing these stupid words? Well, actually, that's from the Swahili language, and they sing in this way. We're just about to bring out a Christmas song. We wish you peace and joy this Christmas, and it goes. It's got French and Spanish, and it's got Mandarin, and it's got British Sign Language in it as well. So again, there are many ways for all of us to say, we wish you peace and joy this Christmas. So again, we're trying to do that a wee bit, just to encourage people to think beyond our little bubbles.
Yeah.
Intercultural worship. That's another flavour and another string to add to our bow of finding ways for people to bring all of themselves to church, not just sort of the bit they think that is acceptable. And I think that's a journey of connecting with people and really building relationships so they feel safe to bring that bit of themselves to church. But as you say, that's one of your things that you've said, Stephen. Does it feel safe? Do I feel like I belong? Hopefully, as that relational work is done, people can bring that music as well and share it. Great. Well, I think that is all of the questions we've had.
So I just reiterate, I should have said this earlier. I have a handout that's gone in the chat a couple of times. You can find that. So it's on the Intergenerate website on the webinar page. And so if you, unfortunately, some people couldn't hear the songs as they were playing, but you can go, there's links to all of those songs that I played, so you can hear them in full. Also links to other things that I mentioned. So just go and grab that handout. And also wanted to encourage, I know that Rebecca has put on about the Oxford Adventures in Worship course, which a friend of mine is involved with, and it is really good. So I can encourage people to look at that if you've got young musicians wanting to develop their stuff.
And if you're interested, our Fischy Music Online site, that's the platform. We have 150 songs that are health and well-being songs, like Build Up, You're a Star, Stronger, Welcome Everybody. And then we've got another 50 or 60 specifically for collective worship and RE as well. So you can check that out on fischy.com, fischy.com.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Sam and Stephen, not just for coming to talk to us and share your wisdom and hard-won experience with us, but also for what you do and what you bring and your creativity that releasing these songs, we can use them in our churches all over the place. So we really, really do appreciate you, and thank you for spending your evening with us. And I'm going to hand over to Liz.
Yeah, thanks everybody for joining. And we're just going to take some time now to just reflect some more, spend some time with God. Not very long, but I'm going to read from Psalm 145. You'll be very familiar with it, but it's kept coming up for me over the last little while in places you might imagine and also places you would not imagine. And there's not time for me to testify about that, but I'm just going to read from verses 3 to 7. And just give a break between each verse for us to just let God really come close to us as we think about how we worship him in an intergenerational whole church setting. Great is the Lord and most worthy of praise. His greatness no one can fathom. One generation commends your works to another. They tell of your mighty acts. They speak of the glorious splendor of your majesty. And I will meditate on your wonderful work. They tell the power of your awesome works, and I will proclaim your great deeds. They celebrate your abundant goodness and joyfully sing of your righteousness. Father God, as we have thought about worship with people of all ages and with families and with people of different nationalities, we thank you for that vision of worship just now. One generation commending your works to one another through song, through music, through engaging in a different language, through playing instruments. And I pray that everything that we have heard tonight will be resonating with us. I pray that there will be one thing that each of us will want to take away, that will either speak to us individually or speaking to the ministry that we have. And I pray, Father, that you would richly bless every person that has joined this webinar tonight, that there will be peace in our hearts as we leave this space, knowing that there are others who feel and want to connect with God in the same way that we do. And I pray particularly just now for Sam and his family, and for Steve as he's there in Iceland. And I pray, Father, that you would continue to inspire and equip and bless them as they are obedient to your call in their lives to bring people closer to you through song. Would you sing over them tonight, Father, as we leave this space? So we pray your blessing on each of us and look forward to when we will meet again together in this way. And I pray this in your name. Amen.
Well, thank you so much, everyone, for spending time with us this evening. I don't know about you, but I was certainly part of a very enriching conversation in the breakout group and have been reminded and drawn back to some key principles through everything that Sam and Stephen have shared. So coming up, Intergenerate UK is this brand new network which we'd love you to be part of. So please, if you haven't yet, do register on the website, because we will try and use that registration to connect with people and contact you. We've got more webinars coming up. Our plan is to do one a term, so you can join us on the 25th of February for preaching in the Intergenerational Church, and delighted that we're going to have Dave Sinos, Rachel Turner, and Mary Halls, who's been a participant this evening, is going to be one of our contributors to the next webinar that we're running, and then we're planning one for the summer term as well. We're also planning some in-person networking opportunities. So if you are already going to or planning to go to either the National Youth Ministry Weekend or the Hand in Hand Conference, at both of those, there are going to be meetup opportunities. So come and see us, but more importantly, come and connect with each other. Let's help build a community of people who can learn and grow and share best practice and all those kind of things with one another as we seek to serve God's people through bringing them together in intergenerational ministry. Thank you again for your time. Yeah, it's been brilliant. We're chuffed with the launch of the Intergenerate UK. So yeah, please visit the website. You'll find Sam's handout there. And as I say, an opportunity to register and keep connected with us. We look forward to seeing you in person or on a screen many more times in the future. Travel safely to your kettles or beds or televisions or whatever it is you're going to do next.